put my phone on pleasure. There we go. Alrighty. We are here for our monthly ME talk, and this month we are going to be talking about managing backups in the enterprise. And again, somebody mute your mic. It's not horrendous, but it would be nice if you muted it. Okay, so first I thought we'd start off with a little bit of the company stuff like we always do to give you guys a general overview of Minion Enterprise, and then we're going to jump right into it. Some of you guys have been here before and you know all of this stuff. You can stand to hear it again. Okay, so we are the Midnight DBAs. We are also Midnight SQL Consulting, and now we are Minionware Software, our biggest and best brand. Probably not our biggest brand yet, but it's certainly getting there. And we have a suite of products that I would like to be able to get to from the PowerPoint. So we have Minion Reindex, Backup, and I am writing CheckDB currently. These are our free modules for Minion Enterprise. We don't limit any of the functionality whatsoever. As a matter of fact, some of you guys in the chat right now are current Minion Backup and Reindex customers, and you can attest that they are fully functional. The only thing is that when we pull them into Minion Enterprise, like we're going to see today, you get so much more. So it just allows us to do things that we can't do unless they're in the main product. But we don't limit anything at all. There was nothing that we said, oh, I would really like to do this. Hey, let's make that a paid version. Nope, not a single thing. You could download this thing 100 times a day and we would never know the difference. We don't collect any info from you at all. So that leads us to Minion Enterprise. So Minion Enterprise is our flagship product, and of course it does cost a tiny little bit of your IT budget, but not nearly as much as it costs you to not have it. But I thought I'd throw in some of the key philosophies we have because, you know, I've been an enterprise DBA for 20 years, and Jen's been, you know, Jen's in her teens now, her mid-teens, I believe.
Yeah, 16.
16, there you go. And now, don't everybody go tweeting that Jen's only 16 and we've got 3 kids. So, too much? Yeah. Too soon? Gross. Okay. But I thought I would throw some of you guys our key philosophies because in that 20 years, I have mostly been a DBA in very large shops. We're talking, you know, 1,000 and 3,000 servers. And I've quite often been, if not the only DBA, one of only 2 or 3 DBAs in the entire shop, and I was often the first DBA and had to build a team. So I had to learn how to manage a massive amount of servers with huge amounts of databases by myself or with only 1 or 2 people and still be able to do silly little things like eat lunch every day and go home before 8 at night, stuff like that. So our key philosophies. First and foremost, consider the enterprise. Now, this is the thing that most people miss when they write software. Even when you see enterprise-level software, and sorry, Bill, I'm going to have to take on SCOM for this one. That everything still has to be done a single box at a time. Even though they say it's enterprise-level software, everything has to be done a single box at a time, or it has to be done in fixed groups. And hey, if I've got 3,000 servers and I have to do something to a group of 25 or 1,500 servers and they don't already exist in a group, what do? I mean, the list of groups that you can have is going to be outrageous, right? So it really doesn't scale that methodology, right? So, and I'm going to ask you guys, what is it that we don't like about .NET guys when we have to deal with .NET guys and bad SQL code? What is our main complaint always? It's the fact that they do these rebar operations, right? Everything goes in a cursor, and it's not really their fault because their entire world works in cursors. Everything in C# and VB and all of those other languages, hell, even PowerShell to a degree. Everything is done in some kind of loop or some kind of cursor. So, let's see. I think that's Chris. I'm going to go ahead and mute Chris because he's the one that I keep hearing.
Oh, way to call him out.
There we go. Let's see if that noise doesn't clear up. It sure did. Okay, so everything is done in those rebar, right? The row by agonizing row operations. And most, if not every single enterprise application does the exact same thing. So what is it we like about T-SQL? That it's set-based, right? We do things against millions of rows, thousands of rows, tens of millions of rows in a single statement. Well, what we've created for you here is what we're calling a set-based enterprise. You don't do everything or anything on a single server basis. Of course you can, but by default, it's far easier to do things to your entire environment or to entire groups of servers than it is to do things to a single server, which you have to whittle down a lot more, which you have to whittle down with a little bit more code, right? So consider the entire enterprise, and let's have a set-based enterprise instead of a rebar enterprise. Automate everything that can be automated. I don't think I'm gonna punch that one any harder. That one pretty much stands for itself. Don't drop objects on servers. This is one of our biggest key philosophies, because one of the biggest problems with deploying applications like this. Sorry, somebody walked by the window and I just blam. One of the big problems with deploying applications like this is that it's an IT project. If you've got 2,000 servers, you have to now go deploy an agent on 2,000 servers. You have to set it up on 2,000 servers. And there are issues with that, right? You know, a few servers are going to fail. Some of them have this OS instead of that OS, and then you have to put them in groups and all of that, and it's just a huge pain. And then you have to do the same thing when there's an upgrade, and you have to have backup plans, and you have to have committee meetings, and you have to have change control forms, and all of the stuff that goes along with making a big change to any server, much less 1,000 or 3,000 servers, right? Well, we've eliminated that because we don't do anything on your servers. You have the Minion Enterprise repository server, and that's it. There's nothing that gets dropped out there. So there is no change control. There is no backup plan. There's nothing. If you don't want to run it on a certain server, just turn that server off and you're done. In the repo, not don't go turn the server itself off, which would also work, by the way. And when you have to upgrade the product, you upgrade it on the repository, and that's it. There's no change control. There's no anything. You just do it. No event storming. You're going to see this today. Another example of this. We've talked about this in we talked about this in our last ME talk last month. That's online right now, I believe, isn't it, Jen?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay. But we don't believe in event storming. We're not going to send you, if 46,000 databases fail their backups, we're not going to send you 46,000 emails. We're going to send you one email with 46,000 events in it, which, believe me, that may sound like a lot, but it's a lot less than 46,000 separate emails. Or if that's across 2,000 servers, even if you're lumping them up at that level, that's still 2,000 emails. We send you one. And you're going to see how fabulous our backup alert configuration really is. Log everything, report on anything. And you're going to see that again here as well. And finally, work like a DBA. This is one of the best things that we can teach you, both as a company and as DBAs who like to teach. Our product doesn't have a GUI, and it doesn't have a GUI for a reason, because GUIs slow you down. You can't do things against 2,000 servers effectively with a GUI, because the 1,000 servers you're working on this time may not be the 1,000 servers you're working on next time. The properties you want to change this time may not be the properties you want to change next time, and so on and so on. And you can't add them to processes, and you can't take a GUI and make a process out of it, or make an alert off of it, or you can't code it and have it the same again and again and again and again and again. Whenever you work in a GUI, the operations, if it takes 17 clicks to get something done, it takes those same 17 clicks every single time. It never gets any faster. But in our product, once you get the procedure down for what you want to do, you save it. And next time, you may have to tweak something here or there, maybe, or you just run it the way it is, but it gets faster and faster, and you can add those configurations. You can add those configurations to processes, and you can have other people call those things, and you can give other people rights to view the data very easily, and it's very extensible. And you can add your own customized data to the process, and it's all very simple. And that's the kind of stuff that you can't do when you're doing it in a GUI. And so now, with no further ado, let's look at the demo. I'm going to do my best to...
Demos? I was told this was going to be an all-slide presentation.
It actually is.
Oh, well.
But, okay, so Minion Backup. You guys all know about Minion Backup, and you know what it is, and you know what it stands for. Well, everybody except our friend in the blue chat right there. But what we're going to show you today is not about Minion Backup itself, because we have plenty of stuff on that already.
Sure.
What we're going to show you today is how it works with Minion Enterprise. So first, let's talk about standalone versus managed backup management, right? So when you have standalone management, which is how Minion Backup ships, right? It ships as a standalone product. You install it on each individual server, and you run it from each individual server, because you have to have some code that runs, right? And it's always best if that's local. So the key benefits of Minion Backup are far outreaching anything else that's out there right now, right? Complete table-based management and whatnot, right? Which means that your alerts are a lot easier to write.
Which means that you've got one job instead of a dozen.
Right, exactly. So we've got all of these benefits from having table-based management. But if you want to make a change, or if you want to alert on them, or if you want to report on them, you still have to go around to every single server. So if I've got 2,000 servers, I've still got, and I want to move, say, I don't know, 500 of them to a new NAS, I still have to cycle through all of them.
Yeah.
And I have to make that change if I want to move that, or if I want to change my dynamic tuning thresholds, right? Something like that, or change the schedules, something like that. So I still have to cycle around through all of those. But with a managed solution, you make all of the changes in Minion Enterprise, and then it pushes those changes out for you. So it's a lot easier to go through and make these changes, because you make them in one place. It's a simple insert statement. It's a simple update statement. And then Minion Enterprise makes those changes across all 500 or all 1,500 or 1,700 boxes for you.
Or 5. I realize the big numbers are impressive,
right.
But I like not having to do it on 5 boxes just as well.
Exactly, right? So, okay. So that's standalone versus managed. And, of course, it gets a lot easier to train new people, because they've got one place that they have to go to learn how to manage their backups. They don't have to go to every single server. And I've been in a number of shops where we've had really, really large numbers of servers, and we have backup exceptions, right? I don't want to back up these guys on this one, or these guys on that one, or I need to report these guys after 24 hours and these guys after 48 hours, and I don't want to report on log backups at all on these guys, and so on, right? So it gets really, I would turn off the email, but I need it to send the alerts later. So I've got no choice but to leave the email on. She's over here looking at my email like, why do you have that up?
This is dangerous.
Yeah, I know, right? So therefore, being able to import all of that stuff in there and do everything from a central location is really advantageous when you have a lot of servers, or if you just have 5 or 10 servers and you just don't feel like doing those rebar operations, right? So okay. So first and foremost, we are going to take a look at what we've got. Now I may have to delete some data here. I'm already on MinionCon. I'm already in Minion. Perfect. Let's see what we have here for our backup logs. I may have okay, good. So I've got backup log details in here already, but let's go ahead and delete it. I meant to do that beforehand. I'm going to delete this. I don't like that look of that. I hate deleting data.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so now I'm going to prove to you that it's gone. Perfect. And now we're going to import it. And this is the most likely scenario. So the scenario here is that you've had a standalone Minion backup scenario for a few months. And what you really want to do is not lose all of those months worth of log data, right? So you've been on Minion backup for a few months. You're really impressed. You go ahead and take the leap into Minion Enterprise. How do you get your data into the repository, right? So we've written a lovely exe that will literally go out there and pull in all of that data for you. And that is Minion backup import settings. And I'm going to just work with this one server. The single here is set to go with this one server, right? So I'll be right with you guys. There we go. And with any luck, I'm trying to pull this down.
Oh, I see.
There we go. I'm trying to pull this down so you guys can see it. There we go. Okay, if I can. Okay. Now, this is going to take a minute to warm up because of the .NET objects, right? But as soon as it starts rolling through, there it goes. Now it's importing all that data, and that only takes a couple seconds. It's really not that long. But you can see there's a lot of data, and it's pulling from 3 or 4 different tables.
Now, this is your initial setup.
This is your initial setup.
Gotcha.
So right now I've got it running against a single box, but you could run it against all SQL boxes or all your gold boxes if you want to do a phase approach or something like that, right?
And I'm guessing it's like anything in Minion where you could do pretty much any group of servers that you want.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now when we come back in here, you can see I've got my original data back. And this is the log data from that one box from AG Test 2. So I've imported all that data into the repository. Now, do I have any setting here? I don't know if I have any settings or not. Maybe. I've got a couple settings. We're going to talk about settings later. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that right now. And I would say let's take a couple backups, but I want to hold off on that for a second because I want to jump into alerting because we've actually got some alerting talk to do before we do this, right? I figured out during my testing that if I take this backup now, it's gonna blow my failures later. Mm-hmm. So I need to go ahead and just sit on that. But now, let's look at the alerting. So remember what I said, no event storms.
Right.
We do central alerting, which means not only do you not get event stormed, but that also means that you only have one place to configure it. And if something goes wrong, say with SMTP or something, right, you don't have 3,000 boxes that you have to keep up with SMTP not going, right? You've got one box. You troubleshoot database mail on one box. Once you get it up and running, if there's a problem, then everything starts working again, right? But I've had it several times where I've had many servers where database mail stopped working for months, and we had no idea.
Sure, because how is it going to alert you?
Yeah, exactly. How am I supposed to know that, right? But if Minion Enterprise goes completely quiet for an entire day, and it hasn't been, chances are you need to look at database mail, right? So I've even considered putting in a morning email that says, yes, database mail is working, just to give you that warm and fuzzy that the mail system is actually working.
I still don't like positive alerts, but I suppose that might be an exception.
Right. So anyway, well, I haven't put it in yet. I've just been thinking about it. But somebody else is welcome to do that if they want to do it themselves, right? If they do have days when ME does go quiet, then yeah, by all means. So it's easy to config, and we're going to see that in a minute. Literally effortless management. I mean, it is so effortless to do some of this stuff. Extremely flexible, and it relies on ease of use, right? I mean, the flexibility relies on how easy it is to use because something can be really flexible, but if it takes 48 clicks to do everything to get that flexibility out of there, it's not flexible.
No.
Period, right? And most importantly, it covers your entire enterprise. So let's look at the base of our reporting, and it's going to be our report table right here. And I'm going to explain this to you. So we have instance IDs that come from the servers table where you have your list of servers, right? Any instance ID that you put in here is going to be covered. So let's look at instance ID 7, right? Minion default, the database name, that means all databases, right? So this is the default for that server. If I have 42,000 boxes on that server, not only do I have too many databases because you can only have 32,767.
Sure.
But let's say I have 30,000 databases on that server, right?
Sure.
By default, they're all going to get these settings. So yes, I'm going to report on full backups missing. Yes, I'm going to report on diff backups missing. Yes, I'm going to report on log backups missing. How many hours do I want to pass before the backup gets reported on, right? So if the database haven't had a full backup in 50 hours, I want you to alert me. But for diffs and logs, I want it to be 1 hour. That's the default, right? And whether or not this row is active. And we follow the same thing we do in Minion Enterprise, right? You can have multiple rows and turn them on and off. This is for the header part of it, right? So if you switch to another data center, then you can switch these off and switch the ones on if you have different requirements for the header side.
Yeah, instead of losing all of your definitions on one side or another, yeah.
Exactly, right? And you see here that for instance ID 7, we also have 2 overrides. So while I want every single database to get these settings, I want these databases here, and then the other one down there, one of them gets 45 and one of them gets 150, right? But I could also turn off log reporting for one database on there, for a handful of databases on there. If, say, it's being managed by, say, it's in simple mode for whatever reason, and I know I don't have log backups, right? Then, of course, I'll turn off the log reporting, right? Or if it's for something like, oh, I don't know, TempDB or model or something like that, right? We're going to see some of this in a little bit. Now, if it's instance ID 0, that means it's for all the servers. So that means that instance ID 0 and Minion default is your global default for your entire enterprise. So if you've got the same reporting requirements for your entire enterprise, and everybody seems to, but only because they don't have an easy choice. As you start using this system and you start seeing how easy it is to make these changes, you're going to start tweaking this, and you're going to realize that the one-size-fits-all that absolutely everybody gives you just isn't cutting it. You know, you can cut down on all of your false positives this way. So this is your enterprise-level default, but I can also have enterprise-level database defaults. So you see here, and we're going to see this later, that I've got instance ID 0 and the bit final database, which means nowhere in this entire, or in my entire company, do I want to see reports on the bit final database, no matter what server it's on. So I can even cut out servers like a really good, and you're going to see this again later twice, but another really good example of this would be, you know what, if somebody has put AdventureWorks or the likes on any of my servers, then go ahead and nip it in the bud, right? Now, this is a really good time to mention that for this portion of it, you actually don't have to be on Minion Enterprise. I mean, on Minion Backup. I don't have to have any of the data. I don't have to have anything at all. All I have to do is have Minion Enterprise, and I can use any backup solution I want to, as long as it's a real backup, right? It can't be doing any of that file level bit copy crap, right? It's got to be a real backup. So as long as it is a real backup done through any other method, then you can manage the reporting through this table. The things that you're not going to get if you're not on Minion Backup, you're not going to get the error messages. You're not going to get the enterprise level reporting and stuff like that, right? But yeah, we don't require you to be on Minion Backup to change out 3,000 servers of backup just to take advantage of enterprise reporting, right? Okay. Oh, and I made this little version of it here to make it easy for you to see. So I replaced it if it's instance ID 0, I give it all servers. And if it's that and Minion default, then it's also all SLAs as well. So you can see the SLA of the box, and I give you the server name, and it's either gold or bronze or all SLAs or all servers, right? So it just makes it really easy for you to see what you're looking at, right? Because I mean, looking at, oh, okay, well, instance ID 39, what the hell does that tell me, right? That doesn't tell me anything when I've got a whole bunch of these things in here. Okay. Let's see. Where am I supposed to be now? Okay, so now is the time for us to take a look at this other server and run a backup. So let me connect to my test box here. There we go. And let's take a look at settings path and see what we have. Okay, we are set up to back up to the K drive. There is no K drive, so this is going to fail. All right, I even put it right here. Take a backup that will fail. So I'm going to take that backup. It'll take it a few seconds to fail, don't worry. It'll run. There we go. Now let's look at that last row that we just created. And you can see, and not only here, we have the fatal error in the log and not in a text file that we have to then go TS into the box and get, right? So we're not going to look at that error message yet. We're going to look at it when we get the alert, okay? Okay, so now I need to import that data in. So I'm going to run this command, which again is just another exe. That's not going to copy and paste for me, so it's going to make me actually spell it out.
Be aware that since you're in the other window, they can't see it.
Okay, I will drag it down. So you can see this is where we just did, and this is the command I just typed. So I'm just going to pull in that backup data, and I'm pulling it again just from that single box, and I'm really only worried about that one table right now because that's the only thing that we're going to run. There we go. Now, I should be here. Nope, I need to go to the other box. Now we're going to go back to the Minion server, and you can tell that because the window will turn red once I go in here. There we go. All right, so now let's take a look at what we've got. There we go. There's that last one that we just did, right? 1231, right? And let's go ahead and run an alert. So this is just the alert SP, the same one that the job calls. These are the results. This is what's going to be in the alert. And with any luck, we'll get an alert. Sometimes it comes instantly. Sometimes the spam keeps it for a minute. While we're waiting on it, does anybody have anything yet?
No.
Okay, hold on. Here is our report. So here's what our report looks like. And we've got the error message right in there. And it says here, a drive with the name of K does not exist. So we know exactly, and this is the make directory cannot find the drive and so on, right? K does not exist. So we actually get the error message right in the backup report. And look at all this stuff that we give you, right? We give you the last backup date. We give you the threshold that we want to report on, right? We reported on an hour. And we give you the delta. This is how many hours it's been since the last backup, since the last full backup. If it's tied to an application, we'll give you that application name. I don't have any tied to an application right now because that's really important, right? I may not recognize that server, but I may have been told that ADP is a very important application, right? So I may be able to do that. And of course, if it belongs to an AG, then I'll give you the name of the AG as well. Now, managing these things is really easy because we've got the concept of a deferment. So let's say, for example, that you know that something happened, right? The NAS went out or something like that. But you can't really take a backup in the middle of the day or early in the morning, right? So you're just going to say, you know what? I'm going to let this coast and I'm going to rely on my log backups today instead of taking a full backup in the middle of my business day. But I don't want my alerts to kick off all day long, right? So we've got the concept of what's called a deferment. And what this does is this allows you to turn the alerting off until a specified date and time. So you run the deferment SP, and you tell it, I want to defer this until tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And of course, you can pick your own times, right? But the point I'm getting at here is that you don't even have to write it. We even give you the deferment code, and you just have to copy and paste it into the window and run it. And if you've got a server with 30,000 databases on it, right, you don't want to copy 30,000 of these things. You see right here it says use all for all the databases. So instead of bit final here, or copying all of these, I would copy the first one and then just make that database name all, and it would automatically defer every database on that server. So pretty easy, really. If you find out that you want to exclude the database from reporting, or this database and backup type from reporting, right? Then we give you the code to exclude it. So it would actually set that in the backup report table that we just looked at. And of course, if you want to change the threshold from say 1 hour to 5 hours, or from 24 hours to 26 hours, something like that, then we give you that code here to change those, right? And of course, then we have our tip of the day down here, and we tell you what the Minion server is and the name of the alert job that fired off as well, right?
Nice.
Now, let's say that you don't want all of that stuff. You can run a copy of this with those helper statements removed, or with any or all of them, right? So that's what those 3 1s and those 3 zeros are, which is include the defer, include the exclude, and include the change, right? So I just ran it here with those turned off, just in case you're like, you know what, I don't care about those statements. I'm never going to fix that, or I'm never going to adjust that. So now you have it without all of those helper statements in there, right? And we've got our lovely little blue color here that I'm really fond of.
It's very nice. I actually just tweeted a picture of that. I've got a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
The question is, where did it go? Do you have the time it took to make the backup?
Yes, I do.
That's in the
That's in the log table, yes.
Okay, and it sounds like we've got an audio question. Go ahead.
I have a question real quick. The reports, how are you, I know you may have already said this, but how are you generating them? Are they HTML, or are you using report SSRS, or what?
You mean for the backup alerts that I just showed you?
Yep.
I'm generating HTML in an SP.
Okay. So I consider that a benefit as well, because you don't have to have SSRS or anything set up.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. And I'm just generating the HTML, and and I send an HTML SP. Okay. And to answer this other question, also if compression was used, Bill, you would be surprised the amount of data we have in our logs. And yes, also if compression were used, but we have, you would have a hard time coming up with a piece of data that we're not storing in our log.
Yeah, there's that collect everything, report on anything.
Exactly.
We're talking about. And I tell you guys, it really is worthwhile to get yourself a 90-day trial key, because it's completely open. Everything, the version you have for 90-day trial, it's kind of like SQL Enterprise Edition. You know, everything's there, all the features. So you can go in and poke around at all this stuff all you want for 90 days.
Right. Okay, so now let's knock. So I want to not report on this, right? So I need to knock this thing out of the report. And to do that this time, I'm going to adjust the threshold, the reporting threshold. So you see here that the hours that I'm reporting on it after an hour, but it's been 3,085 hours since the last backup, right? So I need to adjust that. So I need to change that to 3,086. So I'm going to change that to 3086 now. And I'm using the same backup threshold, the setup backup threshold that comes in the report, right? So let me highlight this. There we go. And I show you, when you use that, I show you all of the settings you have for that. And here's my new alert thresholds. And let's run that report again. Nope, we'll do that here in a sec. And let's run that report again if I can find where I want to run that report again, right here. The exact same call. We're going to run it with the ones this time, just so we can see all that stuff come in. And if my spam filter works just right, we should get that in just under a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're using Spam Hero, and sometimes it releases stuff right away, and sometimes it holds it for God knows how long.
So, how you been?
You know, not too bad.
Oh,
here we go.
Hey.
And you notice it went from 10 to 9, right? And here is that we were looking for AG test 2 bit final, the one that had the error message in here, and you notice it's gone. So we have effectively filtered that out of the report just by changing the alert threshold. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, we want to eliminate bit final from all of the servers. I just don't want to see bit final at all, right? So let's take a look at the report table. And like I said before, the easiest way to do that is to use an instance ID of 0 and bit final, and I'm turning off all of these reports. So I'm turning off the full, the diff, and the log reporting for bit final on all of the servers. Because if you look here, even in this latest report, I still have bit final for AG test 1, right? So it's still in the report. But I keep doing that. But I want to get rid of it completely. So all I have to do here, and you notice that this row is in here, it's just not active. So let's make it active. I have to set active equals to 1. There we go. And now let's run that report again. There we go. And you see now we've gone down to 8. And you see bit final doesn't exist anywhere in this result set now. So I've been able to filter that out on a global level, right? So now if I come back in here and turn that back off.
I commend you on highlighting the where statement.
Right.
Clause, where clause.
And then I turn this, we'll take this back down to an hour. So you can see it's been turned back down to an hour. And run our one more time, both bit finals should show up in there again. Now, I also don't want to see the model database.
Sure.
Because who cares if the model database gets, right? I mean, unless you're using model extensively for something, right? But at a global level, I don't want to see the model database. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to turn that back on. Notice how it's is active equals 1, where instance ID is 0 and database name is model, right? So let's look at that last one we just did, and I'm back up to 10, and I've got bit final and bit final, right? I wish I would stop that. I keep trying to reply.
Just want to let everyone know that it's okay.
That's right. And now with the model turned off, I actually run that statement, didn't I?
I don't know.
Just in case. It's not like it'll do something. Now let's run the alert again. You notice how model was taken out of the result set. Because in this last one, there's model and there's model. And in this current one, model has been filtered out now globally, right? Now think about that, guys. If you have 500 servers, even 60 servers, right? To turn off something like that would be, you know, cycling across all of your boxes. But here, Minion Enterprise doesn't even have to cycle through all of your boxes. It just happens at the reporting level. So it just gets filtered out when the report comes up. So it's very fast. And you can make these massive changes. You can make really fine-grained adjustments to your reporting structure in just a couple seconds. Okay, let's see. Okay, this part is really cool. Regex. So I can have regex exclusions. So if you've got these databases, these dated databases that the developers give you, right, or that they put on some of these boxes, and you don't really want them backed up, you don't really want them reported, or if you do have them part of your backups, you certainly don't want to report on them, right, because they're just useless to you, right? So right now, we are going to exclude any database that starts with an M. So let's, I want to set active equals to 1, and I'll show you that table here in a second. There we go. So for instance ID 38, which I believe is AG1, I don't want to see anything that starts with an M. And let's go ahead and take a look at that if I can get that to behave for me. Edit is fine. There we go. So what do I have here? I have instance 38. What action do I want to do? I want to exclude for the backup module The regex I want to run is anything that begins with an M, that's a caret M, and of course it is active. So that's what we're looking at here. So I've turned that on. Now I'm going to run my backup. And you can see how much smaller this is. I've only got 5 rows now. And for 38, which is the one I did, I've only got bit final because I've filtered out all of those other M databases, right? If you look at the current one that we've got master, Minion, MSDB, and all of those things have been filtered out via regex. I wish I would set that. So even at a global level, I can set regex expressions to filter out all of those expressions that I don't want. It's very easy. Now, I thought there was something else I wanted to show, but it went right out of my head. Okay, so before we move on to the next section, is there anything else you guys want to see or any questions you have about this particular configuration section of the alerts? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It takes just a tiny bit of practice, but after that, it's really pretty easy to manage. And Bill says regex is a really good way to filter out pubs, Northwind, AdventureWorks. Sure, but I would probably filter those out by name instead.
Right. Because,
you know, what if you have pubs and, you know, there's another database that has, you know, that starts with pubs or something like that, right? So I don't know that I would personally use regex to filter those out. What I would use regex to filter out would be, like I said, the perfect example is those daily or weekly dated databases that they put up there for like restoring or anything with the word test in it. If you didn't want to do that, right? So you get like Minion 2015-0415 and Minion 2015-0416 and stuff like that. That those guys put those versioned databases out there that you really don't care about. That would be a better use for the regex functionality. But if you know the exact database name, then then I would rather filter that out by name. A really good example of that would be report server tempdb, right? You never want to get an alert on report server tempdb, so filter it out of your entire environment. I may actually be filtering it out in the report. I'm not sure. I may have that one hard coded. I hope not, but I may. Okay. Oh yeah, there's one more thing real quick. Now because we care, I'm going to go ahead and make this change. Because we care about you as DBAs, let me get this other report going here. There we go. I'm going to show you something that we've done specially for people on call. Why? Because we've been on call for years. Now what happens? Stuff starts failing in the middle of the night. You get an email alert. You have to wake up and look at the alert, right? So what happens when you open up your email and you look at that alert? You're instantly blinded by the text, right? By the background. And I didn't make the change like I should have. Let me get down here. I think I accidentally set it back to what it was. Let me get to that. Sorry, peoples.
I blame you.
Yeah. Well, it is my fault.
I'm just saying, I blame you.
Geez, this is awfully big. Oh, that should have done it. Oh, I know what it is. I know. Because I didn't say greater than or equal to. Okay, let me do that. And let me run this again. Sorry. A little bit of my incompetence there. Well, maybe we warmed it up, right? No, we can't defer midnight alerts until the morning. I mean, you could just turn off your alerting engine, you know. But what we do is we have a nighttime mode so that if you're just waking up, then we give you these lovely black colors so that you can actually see the alert when your eyes are blurry and it's pitch black in your room, and we don't just blind the crap out of you, right? So we allow you to set up this nighttime mode because we care. I wanted to show you guys that because that's really cool. Okay, now we are on to the push settings. So settings import, the same thing as the last. The settings are going to be, of course, not your logs, but your backup settings tables themselves, right? So it's the same thing. Let me see if I have anything set up here. Yep, I'm in Minion. So let me see what I have. Okay, I already did run this. So these are the settings that I have, and it's the same kind of thing. You see here, I just run MB settings import, and I can run it against all my boxes or my gold boxes, or just a single box if I want to. But the point is you can run it against any number of servers you want to. And this is, again, if you have Minion backup running all over your environment and you want to import those settings in, right? Okay, but you can see I already have this right there. Now let's go ahead and make a change. I think it's already set up for K, but let's set this up for the drive Sean, just so that we can know for a fact that this is the one that we're pushing now, right? So I'm in Minion Enterprise. I just made a change, and I told it to push that change. So I am actually having it push that change to the server. I am going to run what it would run on the back end, right? Let me see if I can get this through. No, it still isn't going to copy.
I don't know how that just randomly stops working.
Yep. There we go. Okay, that ran. It's still running on the back end because I've got it set up for something else, so it's going to cycle through all the boxes right now because of something I did on the back end. But now I will connect to that other box, the one that it is to be pushed to, and I'm going to wait for that to finish. There we go. And now you can see that new path was pushed. So if I had pushed this to 1,000 servers, if I made a change to the path on 1,000 servers, Minion Enterprise would have pushed that out to all of those servers for me. So I don't have to go around, and I've done this a few times, and I've actually got somebody who's on Minion Enterprise who was supposed to be here today, but he's not, who could attest to how wonderful this is, that we've actually switched, we switched a NAS and had to move over 500 servers to that new NAS, and it was a simple update statement like that for us. We just put in the new NAS location, and Minion Enterprise just sent it out to all of the boxes, and we were done in under 30 seconds. It's that easy to push everything out to all of your servers. Now that we've got the basics of how to push down, let's have some real fun. Here's how we could easily set up, say, a new location. So this would be, say, if you want to delete all of your settings for your gold servers and push them to a new NAS, right? So I want to take all my gold boxes and push them to a new NAS, or if I just want to set them up initially, say if I've got Minion Enterprise and I installed Minion Backup at the same time, and I want to start pushing out the new NAS locations, right, to all of the boxes. So here I'm just inserting based off of service level equals gold in the servers table, and I'm just putting all of these servers, all of these settings in here. So, oops, I need to be back on the other box. I need to be in Minion for this. There we go. It's supposed to be red. There we go. Okay, now I can run this. And so here I've put in all of the paths for all of my gold boxes. And of course, Minion Enterprise, since I've got push set to 1, wherever that is, since I got set to 1 for all of these new ones, then it would go ahead and push out those settings for me, and I don't have to do anything at all. All right. Now I'm going to truncate this table just in case, because this is really cool. This is where the real power of this shows up. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit on the backup tuning, on the backup tuning feature. And so basically, as your database grows and shrinks, we allow you to set up different tuning thresholds. So you can use different numbers of files, and you can use a different buffer count, and you can use different block size and max transfer size and all that stuff to really tune your backups and to take your backups really fast, right? The problem is you've got, 20,000 databases and, 750 servers, and how the hell are you going to set up tuning thresholds for all of those? That's a little bit ridiculous, right? But you can set up basic tuning thresholds based off of the server resources, right? So we've got the server resources in the servers table. We know the number of CPUs, and we know the amount of memory that's on the box. And so really all we have to do is we have to do an insert, and we have to do a little bit of, just a little bit of math, right? So this first one is easy. We're setting up the global default. This is not the one we're interested in. The one we're interested in is this one where we say if the server memory is less than or equal to 4 gigs, then I want you to use 50, and this is for the buffer count, right? So we're always going to use, and this is for when the database gets to be 50 gigs. I want you to use 4 files, and I want you to use this many buffers. But if it's got this much memory, I want you to use this buffers. If it's got this memory, I want you to use these buffers. And anything over that, I only want you to use 400 buffers, right? And so we're just setting up the same thing. And this is for when the database gets to be 100 gigs. If it's less than or if the logical CPU count is less than or equal to 4, then I want you to use 4. If it's between 5 and 12, I want you to use 8 files. If it's over 14, I want you to use 10 files. And then the same thing for the memory. So you can see we're setting up these dynamic tuning thresholds for our entire enterprise. So now when I run this guy, I get these different tuning thresholds. And you can see here that now if I run this and look at 2 different servers, I'm looking at instance ID and instance ID 10, or instance ID 1 and 10, you can see that they were set up with different thresholds. Here's one in blue, and this one has 1, 4, 4, 50, 75, so on, right? But look at the buffer counts. For 50, this one got 50. For 50, this one got 400. For 100 gigs, this one got 75. But for 100 gigs, this one got 600. So I can easily set up these customized thresholds, and as new boxes come in, now how hard would it be, right, to set up something to go monthly or weekly? And if you've, say, gotten more CPUs, or if you've gotten more memory or had memory taken away from a box, to have the new threshold settings pushed out to that box, right? You might as well use those new resources as you get them, right? Or not overcommit resources as they're taken away. So you could have this thing set up to once a week or once a month, look at the server settings, and if they're different, then to have it push the new setting values out there. Now, one of the things we're going to do very soon, I've got to get Minion Backup 2.0 out before I can really do this, is we're going to do some dynamic settings for you. So we're going to look at not only the settings, but we're going to look at the perfmon counters from your servers automatically, and we're going to make some suggestions for all of your backups so that we'll know if you've overtuned them or undertuned them, and we'll be able to help you snipe that a little bit, right? So we're going to do a lot of work and doing this stuff for you automatically, and all of your backups are going to be tuned out of the box based off of the resources and the resource usage on the server itself. So we've got some really exciting stuff coming down with this feature. Right now, you kind of have to do it yourself, right? But still, writing a handful of insert statements is a far cry from going around to all of your servers and having to make these threshold changes yourself. Okay, hold on. I'm reading a question. I've heard nothing about how Minion Enterprise Backup helps me validate backup sets to make sure they'll actually restore. Is there anything to help in testing the restoration of the backups taken within me? The answer is yes and no. We have Minion Backup itself can be set to automatically validate the backups, but as far as restoring them themselves, like doing a test restore, We don't do that yet. We're waiting for Minion Backup 2 to be able to do that. That's actually in our roadmap for next year. But right now, as it stands, you could easily connect to Minion Enterprise and get the latest backup location for that database. Say if you're on a dev box and you have to restore that, right? Then you could easily get the latest backup location and then run a restore based off of that, because we know where all of the files are. And that actually brings me to the last I want to show you guys, and I'll get through this as fast as I can because I see that we're at time right now, is some of the data that you can get out of this. So here we've got just a simple query that we've written. Oops, sorry. I've got to run these guys first, or it won't work because this is our base level data that we're pulling in from the tables. Let me drop this and see if I'm drop that. There we go. Now let me pull this up here. There we go. Okay. And now I can run some of my queries. Now with these queries, we can just get some base level data, and this is at an enterprise level. So I can get here. I can see how much space these backups are taking, or the servers are taking up per backup drive. So you see this guy right here is only backing up to the C drive, and this is how much space he's taking up on the C drive for all of his backups. But this guy right here is backing up to 2 different servers, or 2 different locations, and these are and this is the amount of space he's taking up on each one. This guy right here is backing up to 3 different locations, and this is the amount of space he's taking up on each one. Now, this is active space, right? This is how much space is actively there. So these are the files that haven't been deleted yet. And another question, ME works with backups saved to Azure storage. The answer is yes and no. We can back up to Azure storage, but right now that's all we can do is back up to it. We don't, we're not monitoring any of the space on the Azure storage, and we don't have, and we don't really have the ability to delete from the Azure storage yet. But in this report right here, you could report on how much is taken up on that Azure storage, because it's just a storage location as far as we're concerned. So you can report on it. We just can't do anything with it yet. That, again, is going to come in Minion Backup 2 next year. So that's also in our roadmap. Now, another little query that we've run here is we can get the backups per drive. I did something. What did I do? There we go. So now I'm getting it per database per drive. So it's the exact same report as before, only now we're pulling it in per database, and we're seeing which databases are taking up the most space on each individual drive. And that's like if you're housing a week worth of database data here, right, for Minion exports or for show bits, right? For any of these guys, you know, that'll shrink, that'll raise or shrink, right, depending on how much I'm keeping on disk. So this is how much you should have on disk for these guys per drive. And now we are getting into one more thing here. Oops, sorry. Let me get this one because I think this is a good one. If I can get this thing to select, it would be wonderful. There we go. Now, this is something that you don't get anywhere else. This is the percentage. This has the percentage that each instance is taking up per drive. So if you've got something like this, NAS1, right? I've got 2 different servers here on NAS1, and you can see that this one is taking 99% of the backup space, and this one is taking up almost none of it, right? So you can even see per backup location which server is taking up the most backup space. So if you need to delete some space, right, then you know where you'll get the biggest bang for your buck. Maybe you can drill into that server next and see, oh wait, we're taking up, you know, we're storing 7 days on disk, and the other guys are only storing 3. That's the problem, right? And then you go up there and you make that setting in the settings table and let ME push it out for you. But that's the thing, right? Is once you're managing your objects in Minion Enterprise, you never go back and manage them at the server level, because Minion Enterprise now becomes the database of record. if you make a change at the server level and then somebody else comes along or you come along and make a change at the Minion Enterprise level, the changes you made at the server are going to be overwritten when they get pushed out, right? So you never, ever, ever want to go back and start making changes at the server unless you also make that change in Minion, which would just kind of defeat the purpose of centralized management now, wouldn't it? And there's another query here that I think I'm going to let pass because it is the exact same thing. It is just by backup type. So it's the same query as before, only we're breaking it down by backup type. So you can see if, that Minion con on NAS1 we're taking up, 99% of the data on there, you can see if that were being taken up with fulls or diffs or logs, right? And you can see how big each one of those are. So there you go, guys. That is managing backups in Minion Enterprise and how much easier it is to do absolutely everything it is you need to do. I've unmuted the guy who was making noise and is coming back out. Sounds like he's sharpening a saw on a flywheel. So if there are any questions, we will hang around and answer them. I think I'm going to mute this guy again. There we go. So if there are any questions, we'll hang around and answer them. And if not, then you guys have a great day. And make sure you tweet about this because it is fabulous stuff.